Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. And as always, it's just great to have my good friend and somebody whose friendship and brotherhood I really appreciate there. My good friend, Mr. Aaron Young from Laughlin Associates, joined us this morning. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, Scott. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you good. Sorry, we live streamed this to YouTube, and that was kicking in there in a second.
Well, good. Yeah, it's great to be here. I look forward to these episodes every month, and you and I talk regularly, but it's great to be here with this group because I love what this show's doing and the milestones you guys have been hitting. What did I do? What did you just post up? How many episodes?
We just exceeded episode 500. I think this is episode 502, actually. I know, 500 over since November 1st of 2016. We did the first 149 as pure Facebook Lives, and the other 350 are true podcast episodes. So yeah, we hit that number. July was a big month for us, over 35,000 downloads, and just 1.8 million website hits to our AM, FM radio stations across the country too. So yeah, really excited at the growth and some of the numbers that we're hitting.
You know, it's interesting because as a guy who's also had a podcast for a number of years, for me, it's very difficult because with my travel schedule and with my selfish schedule, the part that once like tomorrow morning, I get up and I go horseback riding for 5 days in the country. So there'll be no podcast interviews. But the point is to hit 500 is a real demonstration of your commitment to educating people, your commitment to teaching people how to gain more wealth. And also, you know, you bring me on to talk about some of the challenges that come along with growing, with dealing with, you know, battles and building long-term success that can be protected. So we can spend some time on that, but I saw the announcement on, I think on social media that said 500. And I thought, my goodness sakes, that's great. Because for me, you know, if I can get one a week out, that's amazing. And you're doing them pretty much every day, business days. So congratulations and much success on that. But the stick-to-itiveness is what gets me. It's cool that you've seen enough reason to do it. What gets me is the commitment, because most people, and you guys, you know that I've been B2B, business to business, since the 90s. And really, you could even go back to the 80s because my cellular phone business, starting back in 86, when it was still new technology, pretty much only business owners or business leaders, CEOs, and it was very successful lawyers, stockbrokers. Those were the people that bought stuff.
Yep.
And so, so I've been working with business owners forever and ever and ever. And what I've noticed over decades is one of the things that keeps people alive in the industry forever is their willingness to keep showing up, not casually or not like I'm sitting here waiting for my phone to ring, but who keep showing up and doing something that separates them from the rest of the market, which is, I know I'm doing a big plug for the Note Closer Show here right now for Scott Carson, instead of talking about whatever you want to talk about. But I just see that the people that are successful, no matter what happens to them, are the ones who just keep showing up and who keep showing up even when the economy's down or the bubble bursts or the interest rates go up or buying non-performing debt is probably more difficult right now because it's a seller's market, not a buyer's market right now. And so you have to be finding unusual things to do. You can't it's not just this big, it's like back when I was making money in real estate, Scott, was before the 2008 crash. And coming from 2001 to 2007, anybody with a brain and $10 could invest in real estate. You didn't even have to have any money down. they had all those what do they call them? Liar loans.
Recourse loans and all that stuff. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, anybody could lock up land, buy something for this price, and then make $25,000 on it 2 weeks from now. And right now, it takes somebody who's willing to dig in, roll their sleeves up, know about the industry, deal with the ups and downs. People bitch and moan all the time about anybody that makes money in investment thinks that they're the most brilliant person in the world. And then anybody that loses money in investment thinks the other person is the biggest jerk in the world. And those are the people who are the fair weather investors, fair weather business owners, people who will not make it over the long haul. And so it's those that stay the course, deal with things, whatever's going on in the industry, the economy. They're the ones that end up being the long-term successes. And so I think that that's why you stand out in your industry, because you've been successful over the long haul. You do things, you stay with things. And even when the things get tougher to do and it's harder to make a lot of money, you're still there. And you're still talking about how can we make things better. And so I admire you for that. And I appreciate you for being that leader.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that greatly. Yeah, it's the note business, it has its ups and downs, and we've had, as the market's rebounded, we've made money. It's gotten a little tighter out there as far as you have to go prospect more. You got to go to different sources out there, and
maybe you have to work a little bit.
Yeah, you actually have to work a little bit. Yeah, exactly. For those that don't know, Aaron has the podcast, The Unshackled Owner. Very, very good podcast. Awesome content on, awesome guests on there. He has the amazing mastermind out there as well for people that come to his the Magnifier Wealth Summit, which is upcoming actually in November, the 7th, 8th, and 9th in San Diego. You can go to magnifierwealth.com for more details on that. But Aaron, you've had ups and downs. I think everybody has ups and downs. The more you become the more you do well, the more you separate yourself from the audience, and the more you're willing to do things that others aren't willing to do. People like to, when you have a hiccup, people love to pile on. People love to say, "Oh yeah, this doesn't work," or "This guy's a crook," and things like that. And that's one of the most important things of why the corporate veil protection that you guys talk about, or that you guys provide to so many of our clients, to so many of our students, is so valuable out there for those issues. But the funny thing is, as we've always said, it's not if you're going to be sued, it's when you're going to be sued, right?
Yeah. So if you're going to be in business, now, a lot of people say they're in business because they've done something besides their 9-to-5 job, right? Or 8-to-5 here in the United States. If we're over at New York, it's 8-to-5. But people, they may do things as a hobby to make money, and that's fine. But if you're in business and you're engaging with the public on a regular basis, at some point, somebody will become unhappy with you. Our effort is always to exceed expectations. Our goal is always to over deliver. But sometimes, there's just dissonance in the relationship. Sometimes, I think even if both parties are trying, sometimes things just don't mesh.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like with us, because we do hundreds of transactions a day, right? Something, somewhere, when you're dealing with tens of thousands of people, sometimes things don't work. And because I got to tell you, I'm going to throw this back, and maybe somebody will tell me that I'm being unfair, but I'm just going to do it anyway. I think that we are living in a time, and I think everybody knows this and feels this, with the explosion of multiple 24-hour news cycles, endless media sources, whether or not they vet their information or not, there's just tons of information coming at us. And you said people like to jump on, there's this jump on or choose sides mentality in the world right now. And so things that used to be able to be worked out fairly amicably and easily between humans, having a conversation. Now people's default, because of course, talking to somebody and negotiating or working out something that hasn't gone the way everybody wanted it to. People have lost, many people have lost that skill. Plus people are afraid of confrontation. So what's super easy to do is go on Yelp or go on TripAdvisor or go on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. I mean, that's our president's favorite outlet is Twitter, right? And of course, everybody faulted Trump for being this Twitter dude. And now all of his enemies are on Twitter too, fighting him on Twitter. It's like Twitter, the
Twitter
battle
wars.
of the Twitter gods. Yeah, Twitter wars. But people would prefer to get on and beat somebody up in like some kind of a public forum rather than having the business acumen to and intelligence and confidence in themselves to try to sort things out as grown-ups. Everybody'd rather just jump on. And it's a terrible thing, this whole red and blue political thing of the Democrats and of course this faction of Democrats trying to go super left. I should go this way for the way people are watching us, left. And then those that say they're super right. And it's now there's this polarization. Instead of going, oh, we can have differing opinions, but we can still work things out. We're just going to fight for our ideology instead of going, we're not going to do anything. We're going to dig our heels in. This is what we see happening in the world. So in a world of confrontation and in a country, the United States, which has 94% of the world's litigation, this is the default way of solving a problem is file a lawsuit, which is stupid and expensive for everybody, but it is how it is in this country. And I love this country, but we're so happy here. And there's no, almost every other country has something called a loser pays system, which means if I file a suit against you and I lose, I pay both of our legal fees, right? So now I can sue you and have basically no repercussion and probably end up, because I'll just keep dumping on you till you pay me off. It's like legal extortion. But anyway, this is the tendency that we have. And so having some kind of a big fortress built around you and a moat with like alligators and great white sharks and stuff in the moat. I don't know if alligators and great whites can live together, but we're just going to pretend. Piranhas, I don't care. Something bad. You don't want to go in the moat. And
electric eels.
Yeah. I mean, whatever it is, building something around yourself to insulate you from the insanity of the market and using the law not as a tool to go bash other people, but using the law as a way to buffer yourself against the haters and the posers and the dreamers and the people that are incapable of finding their own wealth. They want to redistribute yours. Those are the people. It's the outliers. This is not most people. It's those little, they always talk about the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? Or the little yappy dog is the one that is the distraction. Or it's, as a friend of mine said, it's not the lightning in the storm that hurts us, but it's the little drops of rain, each one of these little drops of rain that fritter away our attention, right? That pull us off of what really matters. So these little yippy dogs start to bug us, start to bring a little lawsuit or nip at our heels while we're trying to go out there and make a real difference in the world. And some little bitch dog. Sorry, can I say that? I'm sorry.
You're good. You're fine. You're good.
Ends up holding our focus as business owners. And what we need to do is have a great way of putting a muzzle on that little dog and letting them, they can yip and they can bark, but they can't do anything to hurt us. And while we do have to deal with the dog, we can't hurt the dog. I mean, we have to somehow find a way to deal with that little irritation. We don't have to let it become the thing that stops our progress, because we're organized with the right business entity, the right corporate compliance. We're following the rules. And if we follow the rules will protect us. And I'm just going to say to everybody that's listening to me, if you're already successful, I mean, truly successful, you already know what I'm talking about. And if you are not truly successful yet, you don't understand what I'm talking about. And I want to promise you that the more success you have, the more people will take shots at you. The more wealth you have, the more people will try to steal it away from you. And they'll try to find a way to justify it. And the only way to deal with your elevated lifestyle and wealth and success, the only way to deal with that is to begin to build protection around it, because it happens. It's why you see certain people get so much attention in the media. It's why you see everybody wants to compare themselves to Coca-Cola or McDonald's or Disneyland or anything that has separated itself from everybody else. Everybody will take shots at the leader. And that's why so many leaders I know have to have legal teams and have to have all these things. And if you don't have anything to protect and you don't have a reputation to try to let people try to tear down, you don't understand it. However, I know if you're listening to this program, your desire is to have more than what you have now. Your desire is to find a way to create greater amounts of wealth. Your desire is to get out of that dang job that's sucking your will to live and do something that's more interesting and meaningful and challenging and a puzzle to put together. And all of a sudden there is a payday, and there are multiple paydays. That if you're here, I have to assume you want more. And if you want more, then you want to build that new empire on a solid foundation and with solid walls around you, to not to hide anything, but to protect you from the little yippy irritants that will come after you as you have greater success. Yeah, that was a big speech, but I think it's really true.
It is, and people will come after you no matter what, and especially in today's society, it's easier than ever for them to come in and post inflammatory remarks, or to fan the flames of trying to what's the word? Lynch, is it be a good word? A lot of times, I guess you could say.
Well, people will defame you. I mean, how many restaurant owners do I know that say Yelp is a real problem? Because you could serve 500 meals in the restaurant today, and one person can get on there and write a negative review. And if you look at those people, usually they have all negative reviews.
Yep.
They're not balanced. They only write when they want to complain. And then because people will go and they'll want to see what's the negative, and that may keep people from coming into the restaurant. Even though 499 of the meals came out flawlessly, one came out badly, or one just came out different than what that person wanted. But they have a very powerful bully pulpit to make their complaint, and it can impact a lot of people. And I think user reviews are helpful, and user reviews are also usually going to lean to the negative, because people mostly want to write when things aren't going well, not when they are going well. So all the vast majority of what's working doesn't get recognized as much as the one unhappy or the half dozen unhappy customers out of hundreds or thousands. Maintaining a good Better Business Bureau rating is a challenge in today's world, because it's very easy for people to take pot shots. And guys, it'll hurt your business. And people know that. That's why they take shots. So the good news is, if you just keep doing good work, if you just keep performing, your legitimate customers and clients will stay with you. And that handful of people who want to find fault will eventually they'll get recognized for the bullies or the idiots that they are. Now, if you do something wrong repeatedly and you really have a poor reputation, then, clean up your camp. That's true. If somebody's calling you out for things that you really are doing, then you can make a choice. Am I going to be a bad business person, or am I going to try to identify and solve problems? Right. But you can't solve everybody's gripes. You can't be everything to everybody. You're always going to have, a third of the people that love you, a third that hate you, and a third that couldn't care less. Yeah. Right? They don't know who you are, and they don't ever want to know you. And so all we can do is focus on the people that we can serve, focus on the people that we can help. And that's how we grow our companies. That's how we grow wealth. My company, Laughlin, which I feel like I'm the steward of this company. My partner, Lee Morgan, and we're the third owners of this company. It's coming on 49 years old. And you don't last that long in an ever-changing market. Believe me, we've had our pot shots taken at us. We've had people sue us. We've had all kinds of challenges. It doesn't mean that what we are doing is bad. It means that we couldn't be everything to everybody. And 200,000 plus customers and only a handful of problems. So that's a good reputation. It's why we have the A+ Better Business Bureau rating. It's why we're still in business. It's why we have great clients. Some of them who've been with us 30, 35, 40 years. Wow. It's weird when you have a client who started when they were in their prime doing stuff and they pass away from old age, and they've been your client all these decades. Good companies will always survive the pot shots as long as they keep doing good work. But you've got to protect yourself so that you don't lose sleep and money over being exposed and really being able to lose what you've built. Because making wealth is actually the easier part than keeping and magnifying your wealth. Oh, wow. That was great.
That was good. Should we go back and record that episode of Sentence?
Magnifyyourwealth.com, folks. Come on. Well, of course, I made up the name for the event because I really I believe that making money is fine, but keeping the money is the challenge. And that's why you see people who are wealthy who say being wealthy is a full-time job, because just dealing with money that's coming in from places and the government compliance around it, and not getting creamed on taxes and being able to reinvest the money it becomes a full-time gig. Really wealthy people have family offices they have professional investors who do nothing but manage their just one family's wealth. Mm-hmm. It's challenging. Hey folks, wouldn't it be fun to get there?
Yeah.
Come to magnifyyourwealth.com.
Well, that's the thing is, we've got quite a few friends that, are working with family offices. They're growing their wealth. They're doing a variety of things. I just had a great conversation about an hour and a half ago with my buddy Robbie Woods. We talked for an hour and a half and visited, and some other things. We're working on some stuff together, and he talks a little about that aspect too of consistency for a while, and then he basically going in a different route and moving to kind of different aspect of things, and then removing a lot of stuff from the public eye. So he's focused more on just his stuff versus driving stuff. But he was talking about having pot shots sent at him and deals taking place, stuff like that too, that would drag out longer. He was talking about a couple of deals he was working through finally on a 2-year deal that he needed some corrective paperwork on. So we sent it over to him, and, you try to set realistic expectations a lot of times for your clients, and you work your butt off to meet those most of the time. But it's like you said, sometimes that meal comes out from the kitchen either a little too hot, a little cold, or not actually expected what it was supposed to happen. And you have to do your best to fix it, to cure it.
Scott, just as an example to people listening. So I loaned another company a significant amount of money about 2 years ago. And it was a 4-month loan.
Yep.
It was due middle of December, 2017, right? The money has not been repaid yet. It was due a long, long time ago, right? It's coming on, it'll be 2 years this December since it was due. I know, even though I'd love to get the money back, I know that the people that we made the loan to are not doing anything against me, regardless of the fact that they haven't performed on the debt. I have an understanding of what they're trying to do and why everything's taking longer to get to the liquidity event, right? We haven't gotten there yet. So I know sometimes people want to get their money back, but the deal is, if I'd got my money back on time, and I'd gotten the interest that I'd expected to get, I would have been, oh, okay, I'm so cool. I made a great investment. I got a nice chunk of interest back. Awesome. I'm a clever fellow. If I do something now to come after them, sue them, if I go after them now for the money, which is probably in the scheme of things a relatively small amount of money, right? For them and for me, truthfully. It's all I'm going to do is make it more difficult to get my money, because I'm going to cost them legal fees. I'm going to cost them time. We become adversarial, and all it does is make it harder to get the thing I want, which is just to get my money back. Right. And so a lot of people that, I want people to think about that too, is that what decisions are you making with your money when things don't go as smoothly as you hoped? What decisions will you make? I'll give you an idea. And this is going to sound self-congratulatory, and so get over it because it's a story. When the recession finally really caught up to us, our company, the recession started in the fall of 2008, but it didn't really catch up to Laughlin until 2010. It took a while for these business owners to finally throw in the towel and close up. And so we lost millions a year in revenue. Well, my partner and I decided, rather than fire all of our employees, we thought, well, we're the highest paid people in the company. We'll take a hit. So we took significant pay cuts, way more than 50%. I'm not going to tell you how much, but it was deep enough that we both end up having to short sell our homes and move into rentals. But our team, nobody got fired. Nobody got a pay cut. So we quit doing like the match on the 401k, stuff like that. But we didn't quit paying health insurance. We didn't close up. We didn't fire people. Because now, did that suck for my partner and I to lose our homes, to move? We both had beautiful homes that our families had become accustomed to living there. And we had to both move into much more modest homes and suck it up and figure out how to survive on a fraction of what we were living on before. This is what you do when you're in business. When things are good, you reap the reward. When things are bad, you take care of business and you figure out, okay, even though I don't have everything I want right now, how do I make sure that I am doing the smartest thing to make sure I end up with the result I'm hoping for? Which is why I don't sue this other company over this. What would be a lot of people, over half of the United States, this would be more than an annual income, right? But for me, it's still a lot of money, but it's a manageable amount of money, right? I'm not going without because this money is stuck out there in the in the ether, right? In kind of no man's land, purgatory. We can call it purgatory, because everybody be happier. They'd be happier, and I'd be happier if the money came back. But it's not going to solve anything by suing them or causing problems. So I hope everybody that's listening that wants to be legitimately in business will think about the fact that lawsuits can be a big hammer. I'll tell you, one of the reasons people don't like our current president is because he's perceived as a bully. He's perceived as a punk by a lot of people. Now, I personally like a lot of things he's doing as president, but I don't like his way of pushing people around, calling names. And he's a big lawsuit guy. He's a big file lawsuits. So if you don't like our president, consider not acting like him, right? It doesn't mean give away the store like some other former president may have done. People do their own thing, but be really wise about building relationships that last over time, because we can weather the few things that don't work out as a business owner. What we don't want to do is become kind of we don't want to be that jerk that ends up being nobody wants to work with you, right? If you can be civil, you can be logical, you can be reasonable, most of the time you can get through almost any change in the market, change in, a deal that doesn't work, a meal that didn't come out right. If you're a jerk to the server, they may take the meal off your bill, but you may be the one that nobody wants to take your table going forward too. And heaven forbid they spit in your food. I've never been a server. I've heard of these horror stories. Whereas if you come back and say, gee whiz, it's totally my thing. I made this choice. I asked for this stuff and it's not what I was hoping for, or it's too spicy for me, or this was, I wanted a lot of people, I bet you see this with investors, Scott. A lot of people just want to be served, cherry pie a la mode. They want everything to be like perfect, yummy, easy. Aren't I special to be, let me access you every day by phone. Let me, I want you to be super responsive to me because I've invested money in a deal, right? But if it comes out where the cherries are a little too tart, or the ice cream's a little bit melted, or maybe it took a little longer for you to get it than you wanted it, then everybody just says, you guys suck. In my opinion, those are people who may get their way today, but they won't make it long-term. They won't make it long-term. And so folks, be the business owner who's both gives great service, is responsive to your customers, doesn't go out there sloppy. Don't give slipshod products or services, but understand you're going to have haters. Sometimes you're going to have people that are unsatisfied. They may not be haters. They may have a legitimate beef, but figure out ways to get ahead of those problems or learn the problems, turn those into learning lessons, but also not judge yourself based on that individual or those 2 or 3 or 4 people versus the hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands that you can help and you can serve. Because that's going to be your legacy, not the few little distractions. I don't know. I'm on a roll here, Scott.
You're on a stump. I love it. It's all right, but you're 100% right, because I think a lot of people think you're exactly right. I mean, a lot of people who don't do, they'll write a check. They want you to do it for them, and that's totally fine in a variety of different ways. But you also have to realize it is not always the rosiest color. But that's the thing too. You have to realize too is people will always try to think the best is going to happen. When it doesn't come back the best, they get upset. And, you have to set realistic expectations, and there's specific things when you raising capital or working with things. You want to make sure that not everybody is your client, like you said beforehand. Not everybody should be a that client, you know, and how you set and carry yourself in that aspect of things, and how you screen your potential clients and things like that too is also important too. So,
well, absolutely. I mean, I just taught a group of mine. I talked to them about, don't trade your integrity for quick money. Right. And so a lot of times we'll work with somebody that either pulls our reputation down or will grab money from people because we need the money to come in. We need the cash flow. But we really shouldn't have engaged with them. They're not an ideal client. They're not ready for what we're doing. Some people I see will oversell, you know, in an effort to, if we let our lifestyle get to a place where we're having to take money that we really should never take, or work with somebody that we really never should work with because we're not in harmony with each other, then we're opening ourselves up to problems. So that's another thing, is to make sure that you've always got enough, you live low enough below your capacity. In other words, more than your capacity, how am I saying this? Don't live up to your abundance. Live comfortably with lots of overflow, because the overflow is what's going to save your neck when market conditions change, when there's a tornado, a flood, an earthquake, when the power grid goes down, when there's a terrible snowstorm, when you get really sick and you're stuck in the hospital for a month, when, you know, whatever, you get laryngitis and you can't give a speech that you're supposed to get. So you've already spent the $25,000 speaking fee. Sorry, I shouldn't go down that road. But the point is, sometimes you want to make sure you have enough surplus that you can deal with the obstacles that will inevitably show up in your path. Too many people are living right at the edge of their money, and then they cannot tolerate any bump in the road, any challenge, any expectation they have that isn't met. Because now they've extended themselves further than they ought, and they're now they feel the fear and the risk, and so of course it can't be their fault. It's got to be somebody else's fault. And so you look at all the great billionaires that we hear their stories, and like the one I love to talk about is Mark Cuban, saying when he was building his business, he was trying to hire the right people and pay his bills and do his marketing, but he couldn't eat. You know, a lot of these guys are couch surfing and stuff because they don't have money for an apartment. He'd say he'd go into McDonald's. He couldn't buy a hamburger, but he could grab a handful of ketchup packets, which he would squeeze into his mouth so he could have some sustenance when he was hungry. A lot of people eating ramen noodles. My employees didn't feel a hit in the recession, but the owners took an enormous hit. And that's legitimacy in operating a business, where the business is separate from you. You and the business are not one. And you know that goose that traditionally lays golden eggs for you must be kept healthy and alive. And if that means you move out of the big house and into a tent, that's what you do. Mm-hmm. That's what you do, because that's what real business people do.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
You know who gets a bad rap? CEOs of big public companies. You know why? Because most of them are punks who will dump all kinds of people, fire hundreds of people, and even lose hundreds of million or billions of dollars. And even if they get fired, they get a $400 million golden parachute. Well, those people are a bunch of freaking jerks. They will dump their people and preserve their whatever. Those people, I mean, they ought to be despised. Those people ought to be despised. Small business owners who suck it up, those are the freaking heroes. And contrary to those few exceptions of people that we can look at and go, boy, that sucks of how they behaved. almost 87%, 86.3% of gross domestic product comes from companies of 50 employees or less. So small companies are saving the day constantly. And the leaders of those small companies that figure out a way and who don't burn bridges, and they build long-term relationships, and they find ways of resetting their sails no matter which way the wind blows, they're the ones who are the heroes of this country. And my dad was in the trucking industry. He was a sales guy, would get freight, would sell their service and get freight on their trucks. And he used to always say to me, he'd say, Aaron, those big rigs, those 2 or 3 trailer big rigs, those are long and they're heavy and they're moving down the freeway. He says, give those people some space. Give them a little space. They're doing the best they can with that huge responsibility. Don't jump in front of them. Don't cut them off. Let them, if they're signaling, let them in, because the responsibility they have, the weight they're carrying is significant. And it's hard to make an adjustment really quickly. And I think that's a great analogy for running your own business, is the people that think that you can just do something on a dime and that they're your only customer, you're going to have them. But those are the ones that are cutting off the big rig, or saying, there's no way I'm going to let that big truck in front of me, and they might cause an accident because the truck can't stop fast enough or has to get out of that right lane, right? Those are the people that end up hurting things that actually were carrying maybe the very food that was going to feed their family, the very return on investment that could have gotten their house paid off, or could have gotten their, the trip to Disney World, or the whatever it was that's going to float their boat. What's the old expression? We cut off our nose just to spite our face. And that's unfortunately too many people, which, to bring it all the way around, which is why we want to have a business entity around us, a corporation or an LLC. It's why we need to be treating it like a real business. We need to have separation. The only thing that shows the separation is the board meetings, the minutes, the resolutions, the issuing of stock, the management of the stock ledger, the ongoing meetings that need to happen at least every month, all the things that make you a real business, not just a glorified alter ego. It's still just you doing business as something LLC. And that's what we do for tens and tens and tens, well, almost 50,000 customers right now. So I've said all these things, and it always reminds me, it always comes back to build the foundation right. Even though I'm talking about much bigger issues that we face as business owners. And I don't think the market is going to get less litigious, less argumentative, less polarized. I think we're gonna have more and more challenges, but it doesn't matter because the rewards are so great, and the challenges are few and far between versus all the wonderful people you get to work with, the money you can make, the difference you can make for your customers, for your community, the way you can donate money, the way you can hire more. I mean, these are all advantages. I should say these are wonderful benefits we can provide as business owners. Don't let the fear of a few little yippy dogs nipping at your heels keep you from the abundance of this whole big world that we get to enjoy in a very unique way when you own your own business and you follow the rules so that it can protect you and you can nurture it. Boy, did I need you here today, Scott? I don't know.
I could have put a placard up, but no, it's good stuff. I mean, it's honestly, but it's great things. And I know we've not talked about that in the past episodes,
No.
Little things here and there and stuff like that. But it's the truth is that you as a business owner, I don't think anybody ever gets into business to take advantage of anybody or they get into it to make business and run a solid business. And hiccups happen along the time. You look at every person I know that I look up to has had, a hiccup here and there, or had issues there and there, and they've always worked to overcome it. And and keep rocking forward and keep moving in the direction. And not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to put their business and their good standing out there in the public to go out and make some things happen. And it's very easy, like you said, throw darts. And when you don't really know what's going on or what's going on in the company or going on with a deal and things like that, it's easy to throw darts and throw hate.
In a vacuum of information, right? With a lack of information, our natural tendency as humans is to go to the most negative, scariest reason why. If we can't reach somebody on the phone, and we always can, have they been in an accident? Are they okay? Right? It's not, oh, maybe they turned off the phone because they're playing with their children. Maybe they're turned off their phone because they're having a nice date with their significant other, or they're out for a walk in the woods, just contemplating the beauty of the earth. But we go, right? It's got to be true. It's got to be bad. And when people say negative things about someone who is regarded as a significant leader in anything, the tendency is to go, yeah, you don't get that successful. You don't get that rich. You don't get that famous without stepping on people. That's what people believe that have never achieved a lot. It takes a lot of work. A lot of people who've never achieved it believe that somehow the successful person had some advantage, had some silver spoon, had some friend, slept their way to the top. You've heard all these things over the years. I remember Taylor Swift a couple of years ago when her concert tour was the #1 touring show in the world. And here's this young woman, 26 years old or something, on one of these talk shows, like, I don't know, it might've been, it wasn't Jimmy Fallon, but it was one of these late night talk shows. And they said with a big smile saying, you're breaking these numbers, you're having these records, you're blah, 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 you're only this old, and I remember they asked the question, do you ever feel like you need to pinch yourself? And she looked at him completely, not condescendingly. She goes, do you think all of this happened by accident? She's been doing this since she's 14 years old, professionally with a recording contract. Do you think all of this happened by accident? That I lucked into this? No, this was done by work. There's a million other singers better than Taylor Swift. This is working your butt off and doing everything that nobody else will do. Taking the risks, dealing with the disappointments, dealing with the successes, pouring out to others, doing things like 502 shows that everybody gets for free. By the way, everybody's getting this training for free, but I can't say for Scott's years. This is 30, what year is this? There's 37 years of me making a payroll for other people. 37 years. Okay? Whatever I've got, damn it, I've earned it. I've earned it, and I keep earning it every day because I've been doing this 37 years. We've never missed a payroll, right? Nobody has ever not been able to clear their check that worked for me, right? Well, I'm just telling you that's hard to do, folks. And I'm no Taylor Swift, and I'm not the biggest in the world, but I'll tell you what, anybody that thinks it's easy to be an Aaron Young or a Scott Carson or any of these other guests that come on and thinks that somehow there was a silver spoon, you're missing the point. The people who succeed in the world do it against all odds. Henry Ford was the 9th wealthiest person to ever walk this planet. He had 7 bankruptcies or 7 failed companies, including several bankruptcies before Ford Motor Company, right? And Richard Branson, who everybody reveres, has had hundreds of failed business attempts that said Virgin at the beginning of the name, right? And 10,000 different filaments tried before Edison figured out tungsten would work to make the light bulb. 10,000. Walt Disney turned down by over 200 banks who said he was freaking out of his mind before he got the funding for Disneyland, right? And it goes on and on and on. There's always going to be that yip, yip, yip. Those of us that stick with it, and I'm counting myself with you guys, those of us that stick with it are the ones who get to have a week of horseback riding this week after blocking out the previous 2 weeks to get ready for my son's wedding that was on our farm, which was preceded by 2.5 weeks at my beach house, right? And it sounds braggy. It's not braggy because we went bankrupt when we had a business that failed and we couldn't get credit. I fought the government and went to prison. I've had illness. I've had heart surgery. I've had all this stuff. If I said, oh, the world beat me up. Ooh, somebody wasn't fair. Ooh, somebody took a shot at me, right? I have wasted my time. What we do is go, okay, well, that was hard. Okay, well, that was sucked. Okay, what did I learn from that? Hey, I wonder if I can make a speech about things I wish I knew before I went to prison that people will pay me $25,000 to hear. And the answer is maybe it was a huge blessing to go through the challenge, because we'll always, those people that keep showing up are the ones that are the long-term successes. And so just remember that, folks. There's a price to be paid for success. It's totally, totally worth it. Okay, totally worth it.
Amen to that. And I think that's a good stopping point here, man, Aaron. Thank you so much, man. Great episode. Great knowledge, great nuggets out there. As always, guys, you can get more of Aaron on the Unshackled Owner podcast. You can also go to magnifyyourwealth.com. I was going to say magnify my wealth, magnifyyourwealth.com.
Maybe we should do that. That sounds a little self-serving though.
Well, if people are going to go to, they want to magnify their wealth, definitely.
Yeah, true.
Check it out. As always, you can check out Laughlin Associates. You can go to corpveilprotection.com, corpveilprotection.com, the service that a huge percentage of our students use to help protect, make sure their assets are all up to date, the books are taken care of, and all the different filings to make sure that your LLC entity stays compliant out there. But once again, Aaron, thanks for being not only a regular here on the podcast, but also a very close and dear friend. We appreciate everything you do for us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Scott, and I look forward to next time.
Sounds good, brother. Have a great day. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Check it out. Once again, thank you for sharing. If you love it, check it out on iTunes or any place that podcasts are at. Feel free to leave a review and feel free to share with anybody else out there. Otherwise, have a great day, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.